Hello, everyone, and welcome to another incredible episode of Empowered Conversations, where I have amazing conversations with extraordinary people out doing beautiful things in the world in service to others and literally just all around living their best lives. And that is none other than my guest today. He was actually an Airbnb guest for about a month, and that's how we met and became friends. And I am oh so fortunate to have him as a part of my life. And so is my cat Salmon, who adores Gil. So Gil is a facilitator of transformation. A native New Yorker, Gil moved to Connecticut when he was 11, was very active in his community, and after high school, went off to study theater and philosophy at George Washington University. In his early adult life, Gil enjoyed an acting career in New York City, where he performed on the off-Broadway stages and appeared in popular shows like Law and Order. How cool! This was before and shortly after his Harmonic Convergence in 1987, at which point he woke up to his inner guidance and began his study of Oriental Medicine and Shiatsu. He's had a rewarding bodywork and spiritual counseling career since the early 90s. In his mid-30s, Gil felt called to the Arizona desert, where he became a student of Robert Detzler in the study of spiritual response therapy, of which he has been a trainer and is currently a practitioner. 3 years ago, Gil sold his digital marketing agency. Like, what has this guy not done besides be president of the United States? But I think I'd vote for him. Um, when he sold his digital marketing agency to his partner and started to look at his skill sets with an eye towards where the world is heading. His joy and direction are now stemming from his belief in the value of creating a more mindful community that inspires each person to operate at their fullest potential. One of the ways Gil does this is to help business executives to facilitate transformation to help business executives standardize their processes for scalability. I was combining the second sentence. Another way that he facilitates transformation is to distribute special nutritional supplements that help increase the length of telomeres. Boy, do I know a lot about that. And last but surely not least, possibly the most impactful way he facilitates transformation is with the spiritual response therapy, clearing soul programming that no longer serves you. Everybody, drum roll, please put your hands up and help me in welcoming Gil Nelson.
Hey,
Hey, Gil.
Steph, how are you?
So fabulous to see you here today. I am doing damn fantastic.
Well, good. Thanks so much for having me.
You are so welcome. So, how are things going in your world today? And so, what's all new and exciting?
Oh man, well, it's a beautiful day here in Charlotte. I
Yes,
just moved into an apartment. I decided to stay here in Charlotte for at least a year, which is amazing because I've been on a journey of just moving around, big transformations, and following guidance, and was traveling since June, and just decided to stick around here in Charlotte.
I absolutely love it, and it's so amazing. Speaking of transformations, that the energy that you brought into my home, and we'll get into guys talking about like the stones and the rocks, and that Gil shared with me when he came, and but it's amazing. And I think I was talking to you about this right before we went live. Is what has happened with the energy in my home has just up leveled even higher and more. I don't know, just more energetic than even it was. You have such a beautiful presence, such great energy, and I'm so glad that you brought that into my life, into my home.
Oh, thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so
you're
much.
welcome. So, Gil, the very first question, I like to get real deep. I like to get to the core, the heart, the soul of my guest. I want to know their why. And I know you and I have talked about Simon Sinek, and one of my favorite quotes is people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And So my first question is, what all in your life, your journey, your epiphanies, your experiences, successes, travesties, what all in your life led you to wake up and go, ding, 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 I want to serve others through all that you are doing, in serving others today?
That's a great question. It's deep and it's impactful. What's really funny about going deep is one of the things I did with a good close friend, my partner for 22 years. We were building out some websites, and the first website I built for her was called Lotus Unfolding, and Lotus Unfolding had to do with the lotus unfolding, and the lotus flower will it just sits on the top of a pond and drops a root that it just goes deep. And she will go deep as well, and just big deep thinker. And so it's funny that you said go deep, because that was our sort of slogan for that site, was Lotus Unfolding, go deep. And in the depths of it all is where a lot of stuff is happening. A lot of people use their minds to block what's happening in the depths or the subconscious. They don't want to know about the ugly mud. They don't want to know about the poop. They don't want to know about the compost. They say, ew, and if you realize that the poop is the nutrients for the next thing that's going on, maybe your world is breaking down. Maybe that is happening. It's happening to a lot of people. A lot of people pivoted in this pandemic. I like to think of a breakdown as a breakthrough.
Absolutely.
Because it's all happening at the same time. Things that don't serve are breaking down. And so, that's the question to ask yourself. Can I let go? Or am I so attached to the way it was that I'm going to break with it? If I can let go, then the new breakthrough is going to happen. Something will sprout, and I can ride that to the new reality.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's like it's an ebb and flow, and it's a cycle, like of peaks and valleys. And are you willing to go with the flow of the peak and valley? I mean, yeah, I know for personally, I'm addicted, to joy and happiness and living and being elated all the time, but I can't. And even like this week, over the past couple of days, I've dealt with some anger. I've dealt with like some depression type energy, but I know that that's all, again, part of this journey, this ebb and flow, because what am I doing when I'm feeling those negative emotions? I'm wondering why, what's going on? What am I supposed to be paying attention to? What's trying to get my attention, tapping me on the shoulder? And then once when you allow yourself to get still and quiet is when those answers come. And then we're up on the joy and the happiness again.
Hopefully, right.
So tell me about, I love, you're so interesting. Like I said, when I joke about, what has he not done? I mean, because rich with experience you are, you know what I'm saying? It's like all, I wouldn't say all over the place, because that makes it sound like it's scattered, but in a way it's like all over. It's like encompassing so many different forms of energy of experience that you've had, from acting to owning your own marketing company to working, hiking, Kilimanjaro. And so just tell me about some of these experiences.
Okay. I have not hiked Kilimanjaro. Friends of mine have, though. And that one rock is, Steph's got a rock that I left with her from Kilimanjaro, but I didn't go and get it myself. I have dug crystals out of the ground, but not Kilimanjaro. Other amazing things, though. So I would say, for me, growing up, I grew up with a single mom. My dad was a free spirit. He was his own version of an entrepreneur. He had different jobs, but he wasn't a stable family man. He was born in the 30s, and in fact, he was born in 1931, and he's passed now. And he did the best he could. He was not a happy kid, By the time he was in his mid-20s, he was just sick of his parents. He joined the Navy to get away from them in the 50s. My mom wasn't happy with her parents, who were immigrants, and just had to get out of the house also. They were both in New York. They found each other, did a thing. They had me, then they had my sister, and that was 5 years later. And that was about the time my dad was just done with family life, and there was a lot of responsibility, and he wasn't able to handle that. He wanted to do more things for himself. He was a little bit self-centered for a lot of years. And so growing up, I saw, early memories were my parents yelling at each other, and not a lot of tenderness in the house. My mom was working all the time. She was always under a lot of stress. We were sort of the black sheep of the family. A lot of my family was very successful and had money. We didn't, but we sang. We were creative. We made the most out of the situation that we were in. And I absolutely give my mother a lot of credit for being a single mom in the 60s, and bringing up two kids who were bright and creative, and giving us a lot of opportunity, as much as she possibly could.
Right.
So that's where it all started. I wondered from a very early age. I have memories of 6 months old, of 4 and 5 years old, of having connection with what I know now is an inner guidance, my higher self, soul committees that are talking to me, giving me information, and just being shut down by the adults. My mom didn't know what that was. My aunt and uncle didn't know what that was. They wanted me to go be a doctor or a lawyer or something productive. And I was like, I didn't see the value of these abstract concepts. Don't get me wrong.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah,
medicine is amazing. I just, as a child, I was more interested in being connected to something that I could feel, right? I'm more as a child, I was very kinesthetic. I wanted to feel the truth of it. I didn't want to mentally know the truth of it. I wanted to really get the body high of like, oh, this is right.
Oh, yeah.
And so I spent a lot of time in my youth not really getting that. I found it in music. So in third grade in New York, I had the opportunity to study upright bass fiddle. So they got me like a half-size bass, and I had a great jazz music teacher who would go down to the city and play jazz, at night, and then come back to teach elementary school. You had these little rugrats like me playing bass. And I
played all that. Yeah.
Yeah. I did very well at the Stringed Instruments. I was in a all Long Island orchestra as a kid. My mom remarried when I was in sixth grade. I actually started sixth grade. We moved to Connecticut in sixth grade. I started in Connecticut. They didn't have an orchestra. So I took some private lessons for a while, but really it was just me as a 10-year-old with a larger bass and nowhere to play. So I lost interest in that. But I missed music. And what Connecticut, I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, they had was an awesome vocal and music program for voice. So I started to sing. And I also started to do theater. My teacher was very active, and her husband ran the local community theater. And it was really well done, very professional. A lot of the people in it were actually on Broadway. We lived half an hour from New York City. So they were real pros, and they helped the kids get involved with Oliver Twist and, some of the fun musicals. That took hold. And then by the time I got to high school, a few years later, I had the great good fortune of being admitted into a choir that toured Europe. So when I was 15, we toured Poland for 3 weeks. And then 2 years later, we toured Romania for 3 weeks. We were on Gerald Ford's, he was the president at the time. We were friendship ambassadors. So they were just sending groups of kids across we had 3 groups, and we were one of the groups that got to tour Eastern Europe. That was amazing. And it was a very professional type group. We were in high school, we weren't getting paid, but the discipline was there. If we didn't bring a pencil to rehearsal, we were asked to leave rehearsal. This is professional
Right.
way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really, really amazing and good for me because I didn't really have a dad to give me discipline. My mom was working all the time. And so this chorus and the choir that I was in gave me that discipline to learn a skill, do the skill, show up every day. We did about 300 concerts a year, all through high school. And so in high school, I did a bunch of different things. I have an interest in anything that's alive. So I did sports, I did theater, and music, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I've always had a passion for acting myself. Ever
No,
since I was a very small child, I was in the children's choir, and I wanted to play drums, there for a while, but then we wound up moving, from Lillington to Manteo, and I just didn't take up with it. And we got a few comments here. There's a Facebook user, so that means that you're watching from, my private group. It just says Facebook user. So it says same here, and then they said my father was absent. So let us know who you are in the comments. Give us your name. And then I got Jean Dorf. What's up? He says, hey, you Stephanie. I'm so glad to have you here, Jean. Yes, guys, thanks so much for joining us. So, I love that, Gil, because it's like you intuitively knew, regardless of what your parents were doing or how they were acting or how they were, showing up for you and your sister, you still intuitively knew, like to follow your passions, and you didn't, and so you didn't take on this negative sense of self or self-esteem. It doesn't sound like.
well, actually, that's a great point. To be clear, I was very confused as a child, and I'm pretty sure I was pretty angry. I didn't have a normal upbringing. I didn't divorce was just like bad.
Yeah.
At the time, now it's like 1 out of 2 get divorced. At the
Mhm.
time, it was like 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5, and or maybe even fewer than that. But we were certainly within my family, looked down upon for being a product of a broken home. It was not a cool thing. And I didn't understand because I could feel my mom's heart. I knew she was a good person. And I knew we were good people. And yet in the world, there was a lot of strife and the confusion between having money and being a good person, and there was just this big separation of that. And
Right.
we didn't have a lot of money. We lived in an affluent area, but we were working our nuts off, and we were just working. I started working when I was 15 years old just to help pay bills.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so at around that time, so I would say it's high school, I didn't understand where God was. Well, where is God? How come we're working hard, we're trying to be good people, and yet we're still looked down upon by family, by some members of the community. We go to church or temple or whatever we were doing, and people were like, "Oh, then," and and we could feel it, and it was not cool. So
Right.
what I started to do was I was a bass singer, and so I soloed at 5 different churches over the weekends. I went to the Lutheran and the Episcopalian church and the Presbyterian church, and I sang in Jewish temples, and I was the bass soloist, and I loved it because I could go to these houses of worship and listen to the preacher or the rabbi or whoever was doing the sermons, and my goal was to find where God is, so maybe these guys know. There weren't a lot of women who were in those roles at the time. So maybe these guys know, maybe I'll find it, and maybe that'll set me on the path. And I didn't find it in the buildings.
Right.
So when I went to college, I ended up studying theater and philosophy and studied a lot of religious books and and I went all the way back. I was studying Ayurveda and reading the Sanskrit books. So maybe they know, because this is ancient human history, and the human has always been looking for their connection to whatever they really are, whatever that spirit is.
Right.
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 So So
I
yeah,
agree. I mean, I think there's this inherent subconscious, um, you know,
drive.
drive to like, think that there's something, and where organized religion comes in is that they paint this picture that it's something outside of yourself,
Right.
that that you have to do certain acts or abstain from certain things in order to obtain this reward. um, and at the end of the day,
Totally.
I don't believe that's what it is, but I do believe that there is this connection. And I think you've heard me talk about the analogy of the periodic table, and how everything is just a different conglomeration of atoms from the periodic table, hence everything is one. I know that you and I've had this, and so that in and of itself, you could call it, the term in my mind, call it God, or you could call it lamp, or you call it ice cream, whatever you want to call it. But that is, in and of itself, is that spiritual energy of which we are all everything and one.
Right. Right. Years later, I realized that it's an inside job, and some of the ancient texts talk
Yes.
about as above, so below.
Hmm.
And what does that really mean? And we can get into that a little bit.
Love it.
Yeah, I did continue on the journey. I went to college. I did not enjoy college. I was going there for my parents and my family, who were saying, "Hey, this is who we are. Go be a smart person and go make us all a lot of money and do the right thing." I didn't enjoy college at all. I started out as a business major. I did very well,
Hmm.
but I didn't like it. So I stopped my business degree and switched to philosophy, and then just did so much theater that I actually double majored, but not in business. The business that they were teaching at school, in college, wasn't, it didn't resonate with me. I just didn't get it.
Hmm.
Um, so what I liked about theater was that I liked, especially when I was younger, the dramatic things. So like plays like Equus, where the young man has this inner strife. There's something dreadfully wrong, and he's searching for it. And plays like that, whether they're musicals or not,
Hmm.
some of the dramatic operas are like this as well. The main characters have a problem, and you can go as an actor on stage and act that out, just like the Greek chorus, and the people in the audience may have an aha moment. Maybe that's the only time that they're willing to open themselves up and feel the feelings that the actors are portraying, so they can go, "Oh, that's the way I feel." So maybe we go see a movie, Steph, you and I, and maybe you're laughing and maybe
Right.
I'm crying. We saw the same thing.
Right.
But the opportunity is there for the audience to have a human experience
Yes.
through the play.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's what drove me, was to connect with people in a way that wasn't super offensive, right? It wasn't like aggressively like, let's connect.
Right.
They chose to be here and be a part of it, and celebrate the actors who actually move them. So I strove to be an actor that actually helped to move people
Oh, I love
without
that.
getting in their face, and it was great for me. I still had a lot of strife in my personal life. I still didn't know where God was, but I knew that I was closer to it, being in touch with my emotions. So acting is really, let's just take an obvious example. Let's say I'm playing Hamlet.
Hmm.
And so there's a method. It's called the Stanislavski method. Stanislavski was an acting teacher, and he said, what if you were the Prince of Denmark? And what if your pals who were up on the roof actually did see a ghost of your dad? And what if they did come down and say, "Hey, dude, we just saw your dad's ghost. What would you do?" That's the Stanislavski method in a
Hmm.
nutshell.
Hmm.
So all of my roles that I've ever played, that was such a simple thing. It's like, okay, what if this was really happening to me? What if I was this guy? What would I do? And so I
Right.
got to feel the emotions, and then I have to stay with the script, but that's the beauty of the art form, right?
Hmm.
In the
Hmm.
script, and you allow your truth to come out through this, in this mold, in this pattern that has been written. So it's an amazing art form, and it can affect, entire communities.
Hmm.
So that really turned me on. After college, I tried to stay in the theater. Getting work as an actor is a whole other ball of wax. So I ended up being a carpenter and an electrician and working in theaters. And my favorite job was to go way up to the top in these old hemp houses and make sure that the ropes were secure and things like that. So that was really cool. My parents and my family were like, dude, you're not making any money. This is stupid. Why don't you get a real job? And finally, in my early 20s, sort of like 23, 24, I went and got a job at a computer company and learned how to program in some of the old languages, COBOL and things like that. I wrote some programs. So this was in the early 80s. There was no PC. There was certainly no There was no email. We didn't have anything. I wrote a program in COBOL that was going to save my company $8 million because email had just come out. And instead of printing all these like data sheets and mailing them across the country to all the sales offices, we could digitize this and email it, and then and it was going to save all this money in postage and paper and be planet conscious. And the company folded. It was Wang Laboratories, and Dr. Wang passed. Gave the company to his son instead of his daughter. The daughter was the smart one, the son not so much. And the son just crashed the company within a year, and everybody could see it happening. So we all bailed. I became a headhunter, which was an executive recruiter.
Yes. Oh, yes. I've dealt with many of them.
I did that for a couple of years. I did extremely well. And at that point, I'm in my mid-20s, and I'm making ridiculous money, and I'm drinking scotch and doing cocaine at lunch. And I gained a bunch of weight. I was miserable. I was not a happy camper. But I had money, and I had that's about it, right? And I had a lot of weight and a lot of things that were not resolved because I was no longer following my heart. I was following somebody else's dream, and I was making money that I didn't.
That's big.
There was no use case. I was just like, but I'm doing the thing, but I didn't like myself, and I was sort of embarrassed by the choices I had made, and I'd given up my art.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to correct something you said in my bio. It wasn't my harmonic convergence. It was the harmonic convergence.
Okay.
In August of 1987, there was an event. It was a galactic, actually even beyond the galaxy event. And it was coined, the phrase harmonic convergence was coined by a gentleman named Jose Arguelles. Jose has passed now as well. And Jose channeled this. Jose was of Mexican heritage all the way back to the Toltecs. And so he had had an opportunity to look at the Zolkin, which is that big round thing that we see when we look at the Mayan. And it's got, there's the dude, there's the Pakavotan, that astronaut guy, and then there's a couple of other sacred calendars. So he got to decipher these and figure out what they meant. And he realized it's a mathematical code as well. And the sacred calendar is 260 units that spins inside of a 365 or 364 and a quarter solar year here on planet Earth. Doing the math, he realized that the harmonics that are caused by one sphere inside another are going to converge at in this time in August of 1987. Now, I didn't know about that, but I woke up on August 15th or 16th, a little bit earlier than normal. I woke up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, having a dream. And in the dream, now at this time I was 28 years old. In the dream, I was 40, and I lived in a white house with a white BMW and a white dog and a white wife. And I mean, I was just the shit. I was the guy. And I'm like, okay, bye, honey. And I go out to my car, and I have a heart attack. I mean, I feel my chest, and I fall over, and I bang my head on the door, and I died in the dream. At which point I woke up, and I picked up my phone, and I called my boss, and I said, hey, Bob, would you prefer that I clean up my desk today, or is Saturday better for you? It was the best alternate choice close I've ever done.
Oh, I love that alternate choice close. Yes.
It wasn't a, what do you mean? It was just like today or Saturday. I'm done. I mean, put a fork in me. There's no, pull me out of the oven, buddy. I'm not doing this anymore. He said, what's up? I said, I'm done. So I left headhunting, and I chilled for a couple of months and then I moved to New York City. I realized I've got to pursue my dream. I've got to pursue my
Yes.
heart. So I moved to
Yes.
Manhattan. I got my Screen Actors Guild card in 6 months. I was on the air doing a commercial. People were like, how did you do that? I've been here 10 years. I still don't have my card. And I said, I didn't come here to be a waiter. I came here to be an actor. And
Mm-hmm.
so my intention and my motivation and my focus were clear. And somehow I manifested the truth of this reality to hurtle toward me as I was hurtling toward it.
Yes.
So it was a combination of my following my guidance without hesitation
Mm-hmm.
and staying focused on what I really wanted to do. And I manifested getting work and being in the union and getting, higher paid work and real work and being
Mm-hmm.
recognized, and casting people knew me and agents knew me. And it was a really interesting time. And I did that for a number of years. I called it stage 2, isolation overstimulation therapy. I was in Manhattan. I'd go into my apartment. I'd be all alone and there's no sound. And then I'd go outside and be bombarded with New York City noise.
So that's what happens in a like a float tank, sensory deprivation. But
Yeah,
what that enables you to do, healing or access to things that
right.
even just, meditating, like yesterday, I just allowed myself just to sit here. I was going through some like rough emotions and thoughts, and it was amazing once I just really just started sitting there and just in quiet and started breathing. All of a sudden I had access to something. I was like, okay. And once I had that thought and that emotion, that the feelings of of sadness or whatever I was dealing with at that point in time, like, just subsided, and I took action on that which I now had awareness about.
There you go. That's perfect. That's
Hmm.
amazing. Yeah, I didn't really know how to take care of myself. I ran into a gal at an audition, and she said, maybe you should call my friend Annie. She's a massage therapist. A lot of times people are storing these toxins, emotional toxins, mental toxins, as well as physical toxins in their body. And I
Yes.
thought, okay, I'll get a massage. I
Hmm.
didn't know what that meant. I got, maybe it's sexual. I didn't know. I was just like, I just knew I was not happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was working, and I was thrilled that my manifesting was working, but I still didn't really like myself. I didn't have a track record of liking myself or accomplishing. So I did 10 sessions with this woman Annie, an amazing massage therapist, to help me understand boundaries,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
help me to move stuff out of my body.
Yeah.
Halfway through this 10 week, I committed for 10 weeks, one session a week for 10 weeks. And about halfway through, I realized I'm not getting answers to any of these mental questions I have, but the questions are no longer relevant. I'm not asking the right questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this was happening just through getting like stuff. It was like simple Swedish massage, effleurage, moving stuff out of my body. It made a huge impact on me and the way I approach things, which is why I went into Chinese medicine.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. So what you were saying, and I know this, we're speaking the same language because we're trained, similarly, with the, similar tools. But it's like, it's not that you're not obtaining the right answers, you're just not asking the right questions. And once that awareness was apparent, it's like, either it doesn't matter anymore, it's not important,
Right,
or yeah, like, you're like, "Oh, wait, no, now, like, I have a new revelation. There's a new question. There's something else." And, and just in my life and my own journey of pursuing certain things to only, land, fall on my face, fall on my face, fall on my face when I wake up and realize I'm, in pursuit of, something completely that's not in alignment.
right, right. Yeah, looking outside myself for answers. It's like, how
Mhm.
come I don't have the right girlfriend? It's not the right question.
Right. Right.
You-
Who am I being to attract
Yeah, yeah,
hurt people,
right. Yeah.
situations?
Well, and for me, it became really basic. Well, what how do I determine what is actually bringing me joy? So I went through a
Yes.
period of pain, and then as I was getting these sessions, I went through a period of not joy. I didn't go from pain to joy. I didn't go from pain to bliss. I went from pain to no pain, and I'm talking emotional pain. I went from just dreading getting up in the morning because I didn't understand a lot of things. My mind was just racing all the time trying to figure out my move, to just like let it go. It's okay. You can walk down the street today. In fact, in studying Shiatsu in New York, I studied with a man named Wataru Ohashi, the Ohashi method of Shiatsu, which is a Zen Shiatsu. He was teaching us meditation. So I was like on my feet, walking through Manhattan, heel, ball, toe, and just every step I would take, I would be conscious of that. I'm still aware of my environment in New York, but I'm also super aware of my feet touching the ground.
Yep.
And so I'm learning me at this time, right? Just basic stuff.
Yeah, that is so awesome. So real quick, share, what role were you in Law and Order? What did you do in Law and Order?
Oh, I was on it twice. And so I'm no longer seen in either episode. You can't see me. My name's not in the credits. I have pay stubs somewhere to prove I was in it, but I'm not. You can't see me in the show. One of them was with the guy Werner Klemperer, who played Colonel Klink in Hogan's Heroes, for all you guys and gals who are remember that silly show. So this was in, I think we filmed, the two episodes I was in were in 1989 and 1990. I think they aired in 90 and 91. So one of them there was a guy who didn't show up at work. He didn't show up to the shoot. And so my role in in both episodes was, we called a light model or a stand-in. So Chris Noth, so this was Paul Sorvino and Chris Noth were the two detectives. And so Chris Noth and I are around the same size. So I would wear clothing look like him, and then the lighting people would light the scene, and I would go stand in, and so they can light me as Chris, and then when it was time to act, I would leave, and Chris would come in and say the lines. And one day, the actor who was supposed to show up at this, Paul knocks on the door, and they open it up, and the guy's in a wheelchair, and they have this conversation, and the guy didn't show, and so they just said, "Gil, be the guy." So I had some lines, I got an upgrade, yay, and I knew these guys well because I just worked with them all season, basically. So the first episode I did, and this was before the American Disabilities Act. Although we were all working on that, I was on a couple of committees saying, look, we should hire people who are actually disabled to play disabled parts.
Right.
And all that was happening around this time, the waking up of the consciousness. So my first role, I was in a wheelchair, and you can't see me. They cut it out, probably because it's not PC. And so that's just out. And then the second one was similar. It was a little scene. It didn't make the final cut, but I did act in it. And the best part was I just got to hang out with all these pros and see how television is made. It's a lot of takes and retakes and retakes.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the same as stage acting. You're not handling the being, as a through line right through. You're going to do it. And a lot of times you'll do the last scene first, and you come back. So it's a whole different mindset. And it was great to see how they do TV and movies. Got it.
Yeah, like we see the finished product. We don't see the hours and hours of retakes and redos and blurps and we see the finished product. And it's amazing the talent and the skill that goes into, I just in editing my Frickin' cooking show videos. I mean, I might have 45 minutes to an hour, of footage, but I'd condense it down to 7 or 8 minutes, and it's like, and even at that, it's like, oh my God, that was so funny. I know I've had episodes where there were so many funny, hilarious parts that the video winds up being 13, 14 minutes because I'm like, oh, I can't cut that out. I can't cut that out. That's hilarious. So Gil, like you are someone who you live with intention, you live on purpose. And so throughout your life, I know your story, and you're sharing that with my audience here, but it's like, what are some of the pivotal moments where you were like, whoa, wow, share with us just some of those where you realize that through your on purpose living and intention, like what you were able just to create, and then, and that it keeps moving you forward, like, to, you're here on Empowered Conversations today.
Right. It's a perfect segue in the timing of what I'm saying as well. So I'm in New
Yes.
York and in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and I'm realizing that I've got something going for me. I was teaching actors. I came from a business background. Even though I didn't like it, I saw some things about it. So when I went to the city, I was teaching fellow actors who aren't working how to do the business of acting, which is not what they teach in school. So I, for example, made a postcard with sort of a Brady Bunch, 9 little thumbnails on the one postcard. And I would send it not necessarily to the casting agent, but to the secretary or receptionist at the casting agent. And every time I went there, I would see that my postcard was on their little corkboard of the receptionist. And what that did was that allowed me to have a relationship with the person who's actually going to tell the casting person, oh no, Gil's awesome. He's a funny guy. He's a good guy. Bring him in. Because a lot of it has to do with, do they like you? Because, I would go to auditions and they would say, okay, we need someone who looks like Tom Hanks. And I had hair and I looked like Tom Hanks, kind of. And there'd be 25 guys in the room. We all looked exactly the same, kind of.
Yeah.
And maybe the producer says, that guy reminds me of my cousin. I don't like my cousin. How do you get the job? How do you even get the audition? So we want to, and I bring that up because of 2 reasons. One, it's a really hard business to make your way through. It's just filled with friction. And 2, I was still trying to find myself as we all still are every day.
Yeah. Until you're dead.
By 91, I had my second episode of Law and Order paid me enough money that I could leave New York because I wasn't making enough to leave. I guess I was waiting tables, but it was just a hard life. Also, at the same time, I'm studying Shiatsu and doing sessions with people. And I now got a spiritual coach because I'm starting to have visions at this point in my life. Beings are showing up in my apartment. I'm not sure if they're physical or not. I'm not doing drugs, but I don't know if I'm tripping on something. What is happening?
Leftover shrooms or LSD?
I found some guidance through a couple of teachers who said, yep, you're waking up to the fact that you're living a human experience, but your soul is not necessarily from Earth. And try this. If you see somebody in your room, ask who they are, make them identify themselves. Whatever level they're at. And so at this time, I started to wake up to a clairvoyance and a clairaudience and a clairsentience, just clear awareness of more than 3D. And how do I use that and operate? And I started to realize I've been living this way since I got in this body, but I just wasn't supported. And a lot of the strife I was feeling and the searching I was doing as a young kid and as a young man all in high school, I told you I was going to all these temples and churches trying to find the connection, and I couldn't find it. Right. And I realized, wow, now it's starting to come out, and I'm learning how to be a conscious presence within this society that's not necessarily physical.
Right.
And at the same time, I'm having huge self-doubt. Am I making this up? Like, what's happening here? Because nobody's talking about it in the real world.
But you had, but that being said, you had access to something that you just knew, and there's so many that we were talking about this earlier. People who say no or who are doubters, but if you're feeling something or you can think of something, it can become a reality. Maybe not in the present moment, but it could potentially be a future reality.
Right. Well, yeah. So I'm bringing this up to address what I think you were asking. How do you use yourself? How do you use your talents? You use your skill. Obviously, practice, right? It's a practice. Doctors practice. Yes. They have practice. So
absolutely.
Practice all the time. It's a discipline, meaning you're a disciple of the way. A book that I would recommend for anyone who's resonating with what I'm saying right this second is called The Ascension. It's by Serapis Bey. The book was written. I'm having a mind blank. I'll think of it in a second.
The Ascension.
The Ascension of Serapis Bey. And Serapis Bey was the teacher of Jesus when he went to the desert. So Serapis Bey is known as the disciplinarian. And so someone sent me that book. Actually, what happened was I went to the 11/11 celebration, which was on January 11th, 1992. And I went to a place up in Maine. And I was doing this thing, and I could feel my guides just all around me. And there were like 200 people there. We were doing this special dance that we'd all learned. And this one guy who was this amazing artist, he came up, he goes, "Do you know who your guides are?" And I didn't even know what that meant. I was like, "Yeah, Pom, he's my teacher." He's like, no, your guides. And I'm like, he goes, actually, I'll tell you a funny story. So I was still in New York. It was 1989, and or maybe 1990. I think it was 89. I just turned 30. And I was walking down the street midday, and I was looking for a new apartment because apartments were really high, and I needed a place that was a little bit less expensive. And I was going toward 12th Avenue, which is not the best neighborhood, but it's on the river. And I thought, how bad could it be? I'm already on 10th. I'm in Hell's Kitchen. I'll just go over a couple more blocks. My rental dropped by like half. Yay. And as I'm walking there, noon, I mean, it's midday, this group of kids starts coming, and I could see this big red ball around them, and they were just angry. And I'm saying to myself, I'm not crossing the street. I'm not going to show fear. I'm a human. I have as much right to be here as you do. So as they walked by me, one of the kids clipped my shoulder, knocked me back. And when I turned around, the other one had already thrown a punch and hits me straight in the mouth and knocks one of my teeth like straight back. And I'm on the ground and I'm bleeding. And I couldn't say the letter F. I was going to use a word that starts with F. And I thought, I had this vision of my dad when I was 5 years old, who said, if you're ever surrounded by a group of kids, stand up and look for the biggest one. And this is what my dad told me. And he actually told me this. He said, just take your palm and push his nose all into his brain and then say, who's next? So my dad came from this different place than I've never been in a fist fight. I don't like violence. I avoid it at all costs. I'd rather tell a joke or be the fool than actually hurt somebody. Right. But here I was, knocked on the ground, and there's like 8 kids, and I could see they're going to kick me now, and like in my kidneys, and I'm going to go to the hospital, and it's going to be bad. So I stood up, and I'm willing to do this. I'm like looking for the big guy, and I'm going to do it. And something happened. My C7, cervical 7 popped. It was loud. Something jumped out of my head, over my head, and it roared. Every one of these kids looked over my head and then ran away. I was so angry. I took out my etheric gun, like this is it, like it looks like this. I don't really have one, but I took it out of my back like I was in a Western movie. And I had been a marksman. I was a target shooter, and I was a national champion. 1-man team, 2-man team, 10-man team. I had very good aim. I had good eyesight. Mm-hmm. And I shot this kid's knees out. I mean, it was boosh, boosh. And I saw him stumble as he was running away. And immediately I felt so guilty because I knew I had like thrown chi balls at this guy, and I knew I had actually hurt him. That's how come I don't want to have a fight, because I know we can hurt each other. It's not play.
Right.
So I felt seriously guilty. I was like, oh my God, I just hurt this kid. Meanwhile, I'm bleeding, my teeth's killing. And I'm still feeling guilty because I hurt this guy. And that's when I heard the voice for the first time. And the voice said, stop. And it like had resonance. It was right out of a movie. Stop. Yeah. I was like, okay, who are you? And he goes, you can call me Sport. I said, all right. And so I said, what's up, Sport? And he said, how do you know that you're not my agent? I said, what are you talking about? And so one of my left eye, I see a vision of that kid who I just took out his knees in a second-story job. Literally, he's coming out of some guy's apartment with a TV. He goes onto the fire escape. He's running down. The guy comes out and shoots him. He drops the TV. The kid is dead. And then I see the next vision. I did hurt the kid. He's not going to do second-story jobs. He's not going to play basketball anymore either. He becomes a teacher in Harlem. And then Sport said, how do you know that you're not my agent? Maybe we need this kid to teach kids in Harlem. It's like, oh my God. So this is the kind of education that I've had. It's very dramatic.
Right.
And so at the same time, I'm thinking, I mean, I guess I could take a breath and let people digest what I just said.
Has everybody got that?
And around this time, I realized this work of trying to be an actor in New York, it's no longer bringing me joy. What's more bringing me joy is getting centered within myself and finding the path. The business of acting, it's filled with personal greed, and So I was producing things off Broadway. We were renting places, we were building sets, we were casting, we were writing our own scripts. We were having a blast. We were doing our thing. Nobody was making money, but we were actually performing. We were having a good time. I was doing Wealth of Nations contracts. So what that means is all the actors, and the director, and the writer, and me, we would all split the proceeds. So I would make like $11 after 8 weeks of work.
Woo-hoo!
But
biatch.
So it was very equitable and an awesome time, very artistic, very bohemian. Hard to live in Manhattan with $11 paychecks after 8 weeks. So I moved to New Hampshire, which I called stage 3, grounding. I lived on a big granite slab. New Hampshire is basically granite. And my awareness of things not physical got even greater. To make money, I would come back to the city. So I ended up having an office in Manhattan, in Arlington, Massachusetts, which is near Cambridge. And then I lived in New Hampshire. So I would come to the city once a month and do 9 sessions over 3 days, 9 sessions a day, 27 sessions on a weekend. And also at the time, I didn't charge a specific amount for my sessions. I would put out a basket, and on the basket, it said abundance.
Oh my God. I say that. Abundance.
Right.
Oh God. Holy cow. Yes.
So I wrote down on the thing, and people would say, okay, how much do I owe you? And I would say, well, you know what your number is. And they would like, what? You're supposed to tell me what I'm supposed to pay you. And it's like, yeah, but my guidance, or rather, because but's a negative and is inclusive. And for me, what I'm doing is I'm trusting.
Say that again, Gil. Gil, will you say that? You said.
But basically says anything that happened before, discard. It's like, oh yeah, I understand what you're saying, but screw that. This is what I want to say. If you say, oh yeah, I hear what you're saying, and you're adding to it, you're including more you're not dissing anything that goes before.
Yes.
So I like to say and instead of but.
Yes. Or.
And so one day a gal came in and she said, okay, my number's 50. I said, Claire, your number's not 50. She said, I know it's not, but it was such a good session. What's your number? She said, it's 20. I said, right, that's your number. It's 20. So put in the 20. And then Philip came in, and Philip was a Broadway producer, and he put down 200. I did the same kind of work. And you know what? It evened out. At the time, I thought I was worth $50 an hour, and that's what I was making. And then one day I said, you know what? I'm worth more than that. These sessions are really profound, and my bills are a little bit higher. I would like to get $100 a session or $100 an hour or whatever I said. And guess what? I had made that decision in my mind, and I accepted the truth of I'm worth $100, not $50. I'm worth $100 per session. And so my 27 sessions over the weekend went from $1,300 to $2,700 overnight.
Yeah.
And this goes back to how do you apply yourself and manifest? Because that's what the game is. It's a co-creative universe. We're here. Yes. We are masters of the universe. If God is everywhere, which means God is within, or spirit, or call it whatever you want, is within, then what if we could access it? What if we could? Well, we can. And so what if we do? And then do it. And don't hesitate.
Right.
Or try not to hesitate. And that's the challenge. A lot of us are caring so much for those around us.
Right.
We forget to care for ourselves.
Yes.
And that's the whole thing about you can't save someone without your own life jacket on. You have to take care of yourself in order to help others.
You can't pour from an empty cup. It's the whole concept of when you're on a plane, putting your mask on first, because if you put someone else's mask on and then you die, what good are you then? You're of no use to them then.
And for a lot of us, caring people who want to help others,
Yes.
we perhaps are out of balance. It's important to know boundaries and take care of yourself
Hmm.
first.
Yes.
So I was learning that lesson, and I'm still learning that lesson. It's 30 years
Oh,
old.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. As empaths, and um, I think everybody has that empathic ability. Some just are more keen on it within themselves and about their lives than others. Um, but the more empathic you are, the more you are sensitive to others' feelings, and emotions, and more. But again, as empaths, we also, as you just said, we have to have boundaries. We have to protect ourselves. You must. A girlfriend of mine who's also in energy work, and she does Reiki, she does massage, she does like a raindrop therapy type of procedure. And she talks about shutting her chakras, certain chakras down, so she's not absorbing the energy. Even like when she goes out and shops or goes where she knows she's going to be encountering a lot of people, she'll shut certain chakras down so she's not picking up on all that negative energy. And if you do, you just go and you cleanse and you release.
fascinating. Yeah. So shutting chakras down is one way to do it. There's certainly ways to put up boundaries. And
Hmm.
I just looked at my phone which is on Instagram. I want to give a quick shout out to Juliet Soyi, and to Vera, who's in Mexico City. So Juliet was managing a building in Manhattan, and was going to do pop-ups and did pop-ups
Uh-huh.
there. And one of the things that we did was she asked me to come down there, and we gridded the building with crystals, because the
Yeah.
building had issues, and I brought down a bunch of crystals, and we set intention with crystals in that space. So here we are again. She had the idea of bringing forth, in a pop-up, the energy of various vendors. So she's, as the producer of that, got this idea of what's going to be valuable to the community, and that's
Hmm.
her gig. And the space itself was having issues. It wasn't attracting the right people. It wasn't paying for itself. It was a problem child
Hmm.
in the world, in the 3D world. So we brought in crystals, shifted the energy of the entire space, and I believe that was a very successful venture for a while, until it was ready to transform to the next thing, at which point the owners of the building actually sold that building, if I'm not mistaken. So quick shout out to Juliet. You're awesome. It's great to see you here. I'm glad you're joining. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. I know that, when the first couple days you were here, you were, telling me to pick like amethyst rocks. And guys, this is an amazing freaking story. Um,
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I have them right here. Hold on.
Yes. He had this bag of amethyst rocks, and he says, "I want you." But these were like really tiny, like little pebble size. But yeah, so you
Oh,
put those in my hand, those big amethyst rocks, and I brought them. You said, Go put them downstairs. Bless your home while I'm here." And I put them on my little sacred space on my coffee table. Anyway, but you also had this little bag, or this like a Ziploc bag filled with tiny pebble amethyst rocks. And you said, I want you to pick 5 and I want you to place them at different areas of your home, to create this energy vortex of your home. And I picked out 2 and I said, I'll do the other 3 tomorrow. But you gave me the bag. I put it on my sacred space up in my room. And then the next day, I was coming to specifically bring one of the little pebbles and place under my I every morning where I have my bone broth and my coffee, I start my every single morning in my sacred space over here in the corner. There was a picture of salmon sitting in the chair a few days ago, and I was walking down the stairs, y'all. Okay, and I have a wind chime above, above the chair. I heard this ring, ding, 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 and the door to my back deck was open. I'd left it open all night because it was so nice out. A bird, a bird was on top of the wind chime. And when I realized that, I was like, I ran up and I had to tell Gil the story. A bird has not flown into my house since a month after I had to put my cat tuna fish down, and that was 2015. Just saying. And I was like, so
Amazing.
beautiful.
Hey, so I want to get to the next thing.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm doing this all through like the early 90s. And then in 1994, so at the same time, back in college, which was late 70s, early 80s, I was walking. At that point, I actually started to wake up really strong. I was seeing things and seeing people and not sure what I was doing. And I was going to go somewhere, but I'm not going to. I just actually forgot what so I walked into a bookstore one day. I was really searching. I was just really confused. And I was 18 or 19 years old, and I was angry. I was just like, God, where the heck are you, man? Like, if you're really there, you better show me a sign. Otherwise, I don't know. But I was like 19 and angry. Otherwise, I'm going to be angrier. And you better show me something, darn it. I mean, I was more colorful than what I'm doing now. And all in my head, just really like screaming at God, like, ah. And so I walk into this bookstore in Dupont Circle. I was living in DC. And I turn around, and there's the magazine rack on the like across the aisle. So like, you walk through to get milk, you have to walk through the whole grocery store. To get the magazines, you have to walk through the whole bookstore. And on the cover of Psychology Today, it was How to Control Your Dreams While You're Having Them. It was Stephen LaBerge's doctoral thesis. He had just done it over at Stanford. He's the father of lucid dreaming, which is what they call it now. And he did this interview. And I had been struggling because this girl who I really liked and I were having these lucid dreams together all the time. And we weren't really in a dating relationship, and yet we were connected at some deep, deep, deep level. And that was confusing me also. And so I started to study with Stephen and run groups on controlling your dreams while you're having them, and actually using it as therapy. Because if you can control your dreams while you're having them, then you can start to, well, for me, I started to realize that my waking life is no different than my dreaming life. Mm-hmm. I can start to control myself in waking life as well. And so now I'm learning to have the ability to respond, as opposed to, which is responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Responsibility.
As opposed to being a pinball in the game and being just a reactive force that I have no control, which is what I felt like when I was out of control. I felt like I was the pinball, and I just wanted to have some more control. In fact, that was a huge part of what was making me angry. So I was blessed by this sort of guidance to go into this store, see the magazine, buy the magazine, read it, reach out to Stephen LaBerge, start to study with him. All right, moving forward. In 1994, I started to have a series of dreams where every night I was dreaming the same thing, and I would see the country, a map of the country, and all these little lights would go off. And I would say in the dream, okay, where am I supposed to go? And all these little lights would go off all over the country. And I'm like, I guess I'm supposed to travel. And it was like, yay, and then I'd wake up. And it happened over and over and over. So I said, okay. And I gave up my place in New Hampshire. I packed up everything I had into my Camry, and I had $300 to my name, and I drove across the Mississippi. I'd never crossed the Mississippi. And I drove out to Phoenix, where my mom had gotten a place. I figured, I'll just go visit mom for a couple of days, a week or two. I don't know what I'm doing. But, I can do sessions. I was doing a lot of breath work. I was teaching breath sessions and doing a lot of breath work. I landed at the GEM show in Tucson, Arizona in 1994. And it changed my life again. I ran into a woman named Melody. Melody's written books called Love is in the Earth. She's got a whole series of them. We get along really, really well. Then 2 months later, I was out digging in the desert with a friend of mine, and I found this.
What's Melody's last name?
There's no last name. Her name's
Okay.
Melody.
Melody. Okay.
Melody. Yeah, like a song. Love is in the Earth. If you look up Melody, Love is in the Earth.
I've got it written down.
You can buy them on Amazon. It's a good book. She actually makes mention of me in that book and a couple of other ones, because I found this purple agate. I named it Purple Sage Agate. And it's a stone of discretion. It helps you to determine, well, should I be doing my homework or go to the movies? And how do you make these decisions?
Mm-hmm.
So I bring this up because now I'm starting to use my intuition in my dream life and in waking life, and I'm still following guidance. And I'm saying all these things because I'm not a rocket scientist. I mean, I'm just a regular dude. And it's just about, as you start to, I'm quite sure that there's at least a couple of people who are watching right now who are saying, okay, I'm willing to do this. You can do it privately. You can do it for yourself. No one has to know. You can listen just a little bit differently and understand that you do know. And if you keep saying to yourself, oh, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, ask yourself this. What if you did know?
Mm-hmm.
What if you did know? What would you do? And that helped me to make steps going forward. So understand, I'm on my own. I didn't have parents that I could call up. I didn't really value their input. I thought that they were weak. I thought that they didn't have good relationships. Why should I trust them? I'm not saying I was having bad relationships. I'm saying that I didn't understand what I was supposed to be doing in a relationship. I'm a lone person on a planet, and what am I supposed to be doing here? And I knew it was greater than me, and it wasn't just about settling down and having a family. I wasn't really drawn to do that.
Right.
I wasn't really drawn to have kids. I didn't think I was responsible enough to have kids. I certainly didn't come from a background of doing that well. So I thought, well, if I'm really guided to do it, I will. So I landed in Tucson, did a bunch of traveling in the Southwest, which was an amazing wake-up experience. A lot of land, a lot of big sky. I know Montana's big sky. Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, also big sky. Utah. And in 1994, I was in Phoenix, or maybe 95, actually 95, 96, and I ran into a guy named Robert Detzler. Now, Robert was maybe 80 at the time, and I was like in my late 30s.
Yeah.
So Robert came up with Robert had been the minister of the largest congregation in the country of the Unitarian Church. It was in Dallas. It's a huge congregation. He was the dude. And he was a Bible scholar. I was a Bible scholar. And he one day he took a class called radionics, which is how to use a pendulum to discover stuff. Mm-hmm. And he spent $2,000 on this class, radionics. Excuse me a quick sec. And Robert wanted to apply it to spirit and spirituality because that was his life. So he was asking questions like, okay, I'm connecting to my high self. I'm connecting to my superconscious or my subconscious. And I'm having my body give me indications of answers. Yes, no, what percent. And this was all in this radionics class that he took for $2,000 to allow himself to realize, oh, I can get these answers. Not from my mind, but from my body, which is awesome. So he was applying it to the Bible. How much of the Bible is accurate? It's 10%. It's like, oh, and he starts writing down all this stuff. Not to say that the Bible is a bad thing. It's just that the stories may be 10% accurate, and then there's stories. I mean, people are writing them. They've been rewritten. Mm-hmm. So, and he's
thousands of times.
Yeah, and he's got a congregation, and he's he's counseling them, right? So after years of doing this for himself, he's basically channeled charts of what level is my soul consciousness at? Do I have discarnates or separates in my auric fields? Or am I connected? Am I the one talking? Sorry about that. Someone's Skyping in. No, thank you. Hold, please.
Every time I hear that, have you ever seen somebody feed Phil?
Hold on a second. No, but my phone is now doing something weird. Maybe it's not.
It's a Netflix documentary, and it's Phil Rosenthal, the creator of Everybody Loves Raymond. And at the end of every show, he always Skypes his mama and daddy.
Oh,
And they're hilarious because the mama's always giving the daddy a shit ton of
yeah,
mess, but it's that do 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 do. Anyway, go
yeah.
ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
There we go. There you go. Yeah. So the Skype just gave me a bit of a mind wipe. Can you remind me of?
So you were talking, you were sharing
Oh,
about,
spiritual response therapy.
yeah, the radionics, yes.
Yeah. So I meet Robert, and he says, "Hey, if you can get a couple of people together, I will come down to your place in Phoenix and do the basic class, so that you can learn how to facilitate your own transformation. Really, it's about learning how to do it yourself." So I said, yeah. And I got, I don't know, 10, 12, maybe 20 people together. And we all packed into my apartment. Robert came down. We did 3.5 days and learned all sorts of stuff about our soul's journey and what we're doing. And I realized at this time, it's like another 10 years have passed. And I've got a little more of a grip of my own clairvoyance and clairaudience, and yet I still don't have the answers, and I'm still looking for ways to make it easier. The truth is, at the end of the day, I'm really lazy, and I would like to just have shortcuts that I can just, I practice this. I do, I press this button, and then life's easier. Like,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
So I want to.
I think everybody wants that button.
Yeah. So in spiritual response therapy, his flyer looked something like this. What's holding you back in your life? Is it childhood fears? Is it relationship conflicts, hidden past life influences? And sure enough, the course is designed to teach you how to clear energies that no longer serve,
yes,
and how to actually identify where your blocks are, what they are, where they came from. So I did that. Then I did the advanced class. Then I went off and became a trainer of it. And this was back in '96, and I've been doing it ever since. And I just, I want to be conscious of time. We've been chatting for a while, and I know we've got
1 hour, 11 minutes.
Yeah. No huge deadline. I've got a little bit of a deadline, but I'm good for a while. I just want to get into, I'm building a website now. It's almost
yes.
Done. And it's really, so who am I now? I'm a gem dealer. I know mineral people all over the world. Crystals are a huge part of my life. They're energetic influencers, and we can use them and work with them. They can work with us. They have their own consciousness, as well as, quartz it's silicon dioxide, and it's a transmitter. So we can do things with different crystals. Spiritual response therapy is a really fast way to change to remove obstacles. It's such an obstacle remover.
Right.
And so many people are looking, especially after the pandemic, so many people have woken up to, this is not my beautiful life. This is not my beautiful house. What am I doing?
This is not my beautiful house. Yeah. What was that? Who sang that?
David Byrne, Talking Heads.
Yeah, Talking Heads.
Yeah, man. So now what? What are we going to do when we grow up? Well, spiritual response therapy will help remove the things that no longer serve in a very fast, easy way. And it doesn't have to take months and months or years and years of cathartic, letting it out. It can just be removed.
Right. Love that.
So I'm reinstituting that as a part of my life. I've been doing it for myself for years, and I kind of went off in Arizona. I went further and further away from society. I ended up living on a bunch of acres out in the wilderness, which was really, really good for a long, long time. And I would show up to town either selling rocks or doing some kind of a drum circle with community. But I mean, people were driving 100 miles to do a gathering because we all lived remote in the southern Arizona mountains. And now, I moved back to New York to help take care of my mother-in-law. And that was great. And that adventure is now done. And now I'm on my own, and and my mother-in-law's fine. I'm just no longer part of that unit.
Right.
We shifted. So here I am, and I'm redesigning myself. And I'm asking myself, well, what resonates with me? What brings me joy? What feels like it brings me joy? And I'm just going to try stuff, and I'm just practicing. So I've been doing sessions for people. It feels great. They're feeling really good about it. I'm selling crystals. I'm buying crystals. I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff with crystals. Right now, I'm actually serving food at a restaurant in town, which is awesome because I get to bless people's food and tell jokes, which is just the best thing. And I'm also a COVID compliance officer for film and television and live events. And so I've got this great opportunity to do things without having to go get a job in an office environment, which may not even exist anymore. Right?
Yeah, a lot of people work from home.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the things that bring me joy and heading toward those. And
Love
the things
that.
that don't work for me and that bring me stress and friction,
Right.
I'm just kind of backing up from them going, if it's bringing me friction, if I'm going home at night thinking about the problem, that's probably something. When I ran a marketing company and I'm going back into marketing, but for me, it's not like, hey, I'm going to do your marketing and make you famous. It's more like, let's do something specific. Let's automate a direct message response on your Instagram channel so that you can get leads in without having to answer every phone call. What if we could just like direct them to a sequence and find out what they want, segment them? They're going to self-segment and ask for information. By the time you get that email or phone number from the person, you know exactly what they're looking for, and then you can just answer them easily. It's frictionless for them. It's less friction for you. That's the kind of thing I like to do, whether it's marketing or crystals or spiritual response therapy. How can we facilitate, make it easier to transform? We're all transforming right now.
Yeah. So when you're doing a spiritual transformation therapy session, is someone lying on a table? Are they sitting?
Great question. No, whatever you want. If they're at my place, we'll be sitting at a table, most likely. I just did one here in Noda. Hold on one second. Something's happening with. Oh, I don't know if I just got kicked off the Instagram channel or not.
It looks like you're not there anymore.
All right. I'm not sure what happened.
I didn't kick your ass off because I'd have to be touching way up there. So,
well, sorry, Instagram people. I'm still here, but you can't see me. So I met somebody at a coffee shop, and we were. Oh, I see. So now there's a delay. So I'm going to stop looking at the Instagram on my phone. I just met. Oh, here we go.
I'm re-inviting you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm back.
There you go. There you go. All right. He's talking about spiritual response therapy, guys.
How to do it,
and how to do it, and how he does it with people. So
yeah. So I just met somebody at a coffee shop, and we went to the back. There's a place in Noda in Charlotte. There's a couch. We sat down. I was across the couch, and she was like lying down, and at some point we were clearing, and it was like this whole history of relationships with people in her life. It's her grandmother and her mother, and who they were in a past life, and this energy that she's been holding. And she didn't even, it's not something she thinks about all the time. And as we were doing this and we cleared some sort of discordant energy from the lifetime as though it never existed.
Yeah, cutting the cords.
She felt so much relief that she did lie down on the couch, but you don't have to lie down. You don't have to sit. You don't have to stand. You can do whatever you want. I've done them remotely. I've done them for people not on the phone with me, and I've taped it like I got on my own Zoom channel, taped the thing, sent it off to them. It can be done anywhere.
And I know you and I talked about it. Like Gil and I are very, very, very busy people. And even though we were living in the same space for almost a month, like it was, few and far between when we actually were able to sit down and, but on those beautiful occasions that we were, there was a lot of, great camaraderie. But I know that's one thing I wanted to do with you is to do one of these sessions, but we're still friends. So, and you're right down the road. You're about 25 minutes away. No,
Yeah,
but I'm very interested in, because I've done Reiki work with people before. Obviously, I'm very much into massage therapy, physical massage therapy. But yeah, I definitely want to do one of these clearing sessions, because there's always something to clear, I mean, because we're out here living our day to day, and you never know again what you're encountering. So there's always stuff to clear. So, and you must clear, because that's why we go to the bathroom. You fuel your body with food, but then you extricate. So then you can feel more, so you must extricate to feel more.
Yeah. And what spiritual response does is, let's say that you're trying and trying and trying to achieve a particular thing, and it's just not happening, or it keeps getting thwarted by random, like, wow, like anything I do is just not ever work. Something always jumps on it and destroys it. And what's that about? Well, that might be that. I mean, I'll give you an example of a program, which would be an imprint. There's a number of different kinds of programs that can influence us. An imprint is when someone says, those teeth, man, you're gonna be the ugliest one in school, or nah, you come from a line of men that don't succeed. Well, if you're told that as a child, you might have been imprinted with it, and your whole subconscious goes, oh, I come from a line of men that don't succeed. And then As You Wish goes into effect immediately. You're just going to go live the life of another man in your line who doesn't succeed. Spiritual response therapy can go in, find these imprints, or some of them could be from a past life or even a future life, because time makes no difference at some point in dimensionality, which sort of, just mind-blowing. If we're here in 3D,
right,
and let's say the aspect of source is 13D, 12D is the one that says I am that I am.
I am that I am.
The Satnam level that the Beatles talked about. So, and then, and 5D is like ETs and extraterrestrials. Time is not even there. They could pop in from the past or the future. Maybe ETs are our future selves. I mean, who knows? 4D, you're getting more and more dense. You're within the planetary realm. It's still mental and astral plane, and very connected. Duality is there. There's me and not me in 4D. And 3D is the physical plane. So 3 and 4D is what we're dealing with on the earth plane. And really what we can do is sort of get together with higher aspects of self. And the rocks can be 2D because it's consciousness. Also, it's just very long, 10,000 years of growth kinds of things. So we can clear past, present, future kinds of programs or imprints that are based on experience in an instant once we find out what it is. And then you ask yourself or the higher self or spirit, hey, clear that. In fact, you can just command. Once you identify it, because God is within, you command, clear it as though it never occurred, and it can happen instantly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So
guys,
not so much like, hey, I was partying with the dudes and now I need to get rid of all the alcohol. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what spiritual response is about.
Right. Yeah, I gotcha. Wow, this has been so informative. I love everything that you've shared with us today, and thank you so much for being here. Whoop! Oh my light almost fell with my phone.
Be the light.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I want to thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. This is probably I think we've just eclipsed the most amount of time we spent talking to each other.
I know. I know, and we're headed for an eclipse on Friday, Thursday morning, 3:57 a.m., which will be Friday morning, the 19th. It's full moon, and at 3:58 we have the eclipse. 3 a.m.
Amazing. I'm going to reach out to 2 more friends on Instagram. Debbie Hawkins Lewis, and Leslie Hawkins.
Hello, everybody. I'm waving at them too.
For 40 years.
Guys, this was somebody had commented. I think it was Juliet. Yes, this will be when we're done with the recording. It will be on Facebook. So follow me, Stephanie McPherson, D Licious, and also on Instagram, and all the recording will be here. So, but Gil, again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all those that were a part of our broadcast today for Empowered Conversations. And next week I have Erin Kozar, and she's a Reiki energy spiritual light worker as well. Super excited to talk with her. And Gil, you stay right here. I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody. And everybody have a phenomenal rest of your week and a happy Thanksgiving. There will be no Empowered Conversations next week. I resume on December, I think it's December 1st. So, all right, guys, bye.